So today I'm thrilled, I'm overjoyed, I'm just beside myself to bring you a super exciting conversation with Valerie Trapunsky, the founder and CEO of ChatterBoss. She's a leading virtual assistant service that's revolutionizing, really, truly, how entrepreneurs and small business owners delegate tasks, scale their business, and reclaim their own time. Who doesn't want that? I'm been so fascinated by Valerie's journey. She, from being a personal assistant to high profile clients to building a super successful company that helps business owners focus on what matters most. So she's full of insights and inspiration. Today, we're going to dive into her entrepreneurial story, discuss the power of delegation, of course, and learn how to, of course, go after and chase the dragon of avoiding burnout while growing your business. So it's an ever elusive practice me and Valerie were just talking about of continuing to find that mastery. So whether you're looking for practical tips on how to streamline your operations or just some motivation to take it that next big step in your business, this is for you. So without further ado, Valerie, welcome. So happy to speak with you again. I know you have a crazy busy day. You're in the middle of doing it all. Tell us where you are right now, Valerie.
Yeah, as are you, as everybody, right? We're all just doing all of the things, and it's exciting because we have every day we have this opportunity to decide how are we going to spend our time every day. I've recently started saying every day is this like opportunity to claw back our white space. But in that way, I guess like that's like the energy of the day, right? Like it's a fight. It's a fight to stay intentional. It's a fight. It's a good fight, but it is, yeah, it's a worthy cause, but it's a lot of work. And so, it definitely keeps us on our toes, but it keeps us um, moving towards the right target, a target that we chose versus, our days being filled up by something that our administrative burden and outside tasks have chosen for us. So all of that is to say, I'm in there in the trenches with everybody else, but it's a lot of fun.
Indeed you are. Speaking of trenches, pardon my cough drop in my mouth. I'm on doctor trip number 3 or 4, medicine number 5. I'm fighting over here with my 2 little petri dishes that I live with that come home and bring me all sorts of exciting stuff every day. But we shall overcome, right, Valerie? Just take it one day at a time.
That's what it is. I hope you feel better.
Thank you so much. I
You don't have a choice as a mom, you don't have a choice.
Whether I feel better or not, here I am as an entrepreneur, which brings me to you and to your story. So, like I kind of mentioned, personal assistant to high profile individuals. I'm sure there's a lot of good tea there. Maybe we'll get to that in another podcast, but, we chatted briefly before just about like how that, and you talk about this openly a lot, but like how that's shaped your approach to ChatterBox. Why or how really did you know it was time to transition from working for others into launching your own company? So we'd love to hear a little bit about that step and that journey that you took.
Yeah, so working as an assistant was this fascinating opening of a world. I had not imagined what a high-powered role an assistant is until I stepped into it. And seeing how um, some of the world's highest performers leverage their assistants, leverage their teams, it was fascinating. The biggest takeaway that I had that was unexpected was that there was always multiple assistants. I had believed that the assistant and client relationship or the assistant and principal relationship is monogamous, one assistant, one principal, you work together. But it was actually, I was always working on teams. I was often the second, third, or fourth assistant inside of an organization, inside of a home. To be honest, at first I pushed back against that idea because I liked, the idea of like
Yeah.
full autonomy, being the one and only, making all of the decisions, and to understanding that as assistants, we can work together to complement each other's strengths, and to support each other in the weaknesses. And so, being in that role really opened up my eyes for what's possible. And it was a very, very natural transition for me to starting ChatterBoss, because for the most part, in those very high profile assistant roles, eventually you have to make a decision, like, how much of space is my personal life going to occupy versus how much of space and time my career is going to occupy. And so it was a natural transition that it was like time to focus on myself, but it was with the idea of like, can I create an environment where entrepreneurs and business owners get the best of this, right? They get this like high performing teams, and they get leverage in their lives to like live their biggest dreams, but can I create a space for assistants to bring their full selves, to bring their strengths and weaknesses, to work alongside others, but then also like not give their entire life, right? That they could have balance as well. So it was very natural, has been a very, very interesting puzzle to solve. And we're still continuing to solve for it.
I'm sure. I mean, there's so many takeaways, and I feel like this is a little bit of an unfair question because I mean, it's again an equation to constantly solve. But I mean, at a high level, and I know you've talked about this, in other places, and I know you have a great answer for this. So I'm interested to hear like your take as that personal assistant, seeing that dynamic. There's many other people, like you say, and naturally, I think where my mind goes is that, well, some of them did it better than others. Some of them manage their staff, or maybe there was a key person on the team that really made a difference in running that team. So, while there's no secret sauce to every single team, I'm sure, like, any main takeaways you think, and the differences between doing it well and doing it not so well? Because you can have people and it still doesn't make things better for you sometimes, right?
Yeah, actually, no one has asked that question in that particular way. And you're absolutely right. In every position that I've held, there was one glue, and that was there was always a human centric person that was close to the principal. So in all of those positions, there was always a buffer of a person that was like a close right hand. So like not necessarily that they were on the assistant, like in that like office of the principal or office of
Sure.
the CEO, but there was always like a right hand, a guide or a friend that was extremely human centric that said, you have to value the humans that are running this. And I remember thinking like, so that's definitely the glue to it. And I don't think that I could have made it in any of those positions for any amount of time if there was not that person. And so like even now when I look at, like sometimes like I'll follow like um celebrity news of like what's happening with like assistants and things like that. And like I always like make a note for myself. There was like no person advocating for the human beings here. And so that's like I think like when you see like a lot of turnover. So like it's hard, like to be like a very high performer is very hard. There's a lot of stress, and sometimes the people management is just not a strength, is not like a time possibility, and that is okay, but you always need a human person, like a people person inside of your organization. So yeah.
Yeah, that's so interesting. I mean, obviously, I jumped right on when you said human centric, and I love the way that you illustrated that by saying, you're really invested in the people that are running here because there's a lot of tasks. And so it sounds like kind of, and I think this is so relatable, even if you're not an entrepreneur, this is so relatable, right? Think about the good bosses that you had, the good work environments that you had. There was somebody there who cared about you, or who cared about the collective group, and maybe even not you specifically, but the group. And you felt that in some way. And that's what made it great. Do you think that's something you can teach people how to do?
I think that people come with with the sets of aptitudes and
Uh-huh.
strengths that they have. Some people are people,
Yeah.
and some people are not
Mhm.
people.
Yeah.
And those that are people centric can still use um, structures to do better, because you can be a people person, but you may be more of a visionary where it's like hard to create the structure for those that are different, right? And you can be a people
Yeah.
person that's an integrator, right? So there's like all of those combinations. So regardless of who you are, can you put in a structure that will make it better and improve? Yes. Just like some people, it's like their starting point is like
Yeah.
is like one step above, but you can always make improvement, just like in delegation.
Mhm.
Some of us are starting the race early because of the way our experience is set up, the way that our personalities are set up, and so some of
Mhm.
us are naturally better delegators, but that doesn't mean that if you're starting at a level 2 you can't get to a level 5. This is the same thing. So absolutely, you can teach it. We do teach it,
Mhm.
and we have to not get discouraged if it's like something that's like not like a natural aptitude. Um, it's part of playing the game. So we're gonna have to, just like delegation, we're gonna need those delegation skills. We need those people management skills.
Yeah, so true. And I think it does speak a lot to Chatterboss's approach, which, by the way, folks, I'm a client here. I'm drinking the juice, okay? So I'm really in the early phases of my Chatterboss journey. But I think what's so interesting about it so far is your guys' approach in trying to balance that team. And it is a team approach, right? So first of all, I'd love for you to talk about just like how Chatterboss is kind of different than other virtual assistant services. And in that way, I mean, I see the clear difference in just that team approach. But I think also that really care, and look, what you're talking about, it's like even if you don't have that skill, the key and the equation is to really find the balance that you can offset that, or you can find somebody who can level you up in the ways that you might be. We all have limitations, right?
Hmm.
And so I think it's a clever approach from Chatterboss, but also, that is actually the only way it can really work is to get those super high performance when you have a nice balance and when you have somebody who can kind of make up for your limitations. So, I'd love for you to talk about just kind of the concept of Chatterboss in general and your thoughts on that.
Yeah, so going from the experience that I had in that role, seeing that there was always a team structure in place, I was inspired by that, to bring that into the structure for Chatterboss. So it's a big differentiator is that we are working as teams. It's a minimum of 2 assistants. You start with your US based assistant and a assistant that's based in South Africa. They work together as a team. Now, different people are going to ramp up in different ways, right? Some of us are going to be able to get very quickly with that 2 assistant structure very fast. Some of us need a little bit of time to kind of dip our toes into the world of delegation, and then expand from there. But it's a super um, useful way of operating because it gives you the best of both worlds. So
Yeah.
I believe that if you're a US based entrepreneur, you're a US based business, your dedicated right assistant should be US based. That's why our model has always been you can't go straight and like shortcut into being supported by an offshore team. I'm a proponent of that you need, and it's not because people out of the country are less smart or less skilled or less capable. It's the
Right.
fact that there is, especially in the assistant space, there is so much opportunity for miscommunication because it's like how I communicate
Mhm.
is how you intake. And I like to say that,
Bless you.
thank you. I like to say that with the assistants, there is no there's not necessarily like a set of like a blueprint.
There it comes again. It always comes in groups.
Maybe, yeah, maybe we'll see.
When my husband sneezes, he sneezes literally no less than a dozen times. So,
Same,
I have all the patience in the
same.
world, Valerie.
You do. That should be a separate podcast on how do you get
No,
patients.
that,
Like,
for that.
I don't know why, Bianca. It's like it's irrational. My husband also does this like 12 or 15 times. It's irrational. By sneeze number 7, I feel like you have to stop.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I know it's irrational, and I can't help feeling that way. So I need to know what's your secret.
It's impressive. Like, I'm like, watch him and I'm like, wow. And you just kind of know, you're like, oh, here it comes. We're going to be here for another 20 minutes. You know what I mean? So
Yeah.
brace yourself.
So funny. So with assistants, it's not necessarily, like if you go to a bookkeeper, there's just a certain amount of possibilities that your work can look like, right? Like certain like different softwares, different like accounting structures and so on. But it's going to be like live within a certain world. The administrative world is so vast because it's who you are, how you communicate,
Yep.
your industry, the assistant's background, the industries they've been in. So communication, like when I was building this business, I'm like, how am I going to scale a business that is so, like we used to say, white glove, right?
Yeah.
And so customized. And my pathway to that has been communication. It's the only thing that we can hang our hat on. Everything else is going to be variable. But if we get the communication down right, then we can solve for 95% of the problems that occur and some of the challenges within like the entrepreneur assistance space. So so that's what we've been following, and it's been successful. But yeah,
No, I'd say, and I mean, in that same breath, I mean, was there sort of any aha moments, so to speak, that you can think of where you're like, okay, we're on the right track here. Like we're making a difference for people's lives. Do the peaks and valleys, I'm sure, Valerie.
there's always, there's always, staying connected to each individual, right? And like I'd say that in the beginning it was much easier to see that, right? Because in the beginning,
Yeah.
when your business is smaller, you can see the impact like so easily because you're right there. And
Yep.
if we look
As a
at
client.
and if we look at like the leadership iceberg, right, that like once your organization gets of a certain size, you probably actually see 4 or 5% of like everything that happens. And then you
You're
have to get
lucky.
really, yeah. And you have to
Well,
get
and
very
intentionally,
intentional.
right? You
Yeah.
can't look at everything.
No, you can't. Absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah.
Um, and so I like to look at it that, if I'm seeing just like a tiny percentage and that is indicative of, um, the experiences that people are no longer alone in their decision making. People are able to, entrepreneurs are able to, like for me, what's most meaningful, right? There's like so many, right? You could say like, hey, like got this speaking engagement, got this much in revenue, got this much in profit. For
Yeah.
me, those are important. But the stories that like I really like get touched by, that I'm like, wow, like we're making a difference in the lives of entrepreneurs and people and their families. Like I'm able to go to baseball practice with my kids. Like I am able to go on vacation and turn off my email. Recently, one of our coaching clients, we were working quite a bit on their delegation to get them to the point on vacation where they don't have to work. So they went above and beyond. Not only was it the first vacation that they didn't work, they said, what, like, how did vacation feel for you? I was bored. I didn't know what to do. I was bored. Oh my God, right? Like if there is like any favorite outcome that I have seen in recent times, like it's that, right? Like you're creating enough white space to do whatever with. And if that looks like boredom, like that's, we want to remove this entrepreneurial burnout. We want to remove this, like I changed from my 9 to 5 to a 24/7, that I can have breathing room. Like my kids, got sick from school and I can't be there for them, like that affects like beyond our businesses and our revenues and our profits, that affects like our future generations. So I think that like myself and our team, we take that, like we don't take that responsibility lightly. That's what I'm most proud of. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's beautiful. And I mean, you're so right because there's so many metrics and numbers, KPIs and blah blah blah, but like the difference in I think and I mean, I've seen it firsthand is when your business is making an impact with other people, all those other things will fall in line. I mean, and it's not magic,
Yes.
but there is a lot of that kind of it speaks to, I guess, and if we're going to be technical about it, like product market fit, right? There is that product market fit position that you've hit to know that like there's real life personal impact happening here. And that's meaningful, obviously great for testimonials and things like that, entrepreneur advice. But beyond that, I mean, that means people will keep going with this. That means that you're providing a service that is meaningful, impactful, and has real growth potential.
Yeah.
So that's fabulous. And I think it makes me think of like just how things scale in general, like scaling, like you said, kind of this white glove service, and especially rise of AI tools, which of course, we're all excited about leveraging and things like that. So, I mean, how do you think, are there conversations within ChatterBoss and thinking about AI tools, how to balance automation to enhance productivity, but also maintaining that human touch? Like, is this a conversation? I would imagine it's a conversation you guys have internally and maybe, your, representatives have with their clients and things like that. So,
Yeah.
thoughts there.
What's interesting, like when you build your foundation on like strong like core values, and like you
Yeah.
kind of like know your direction, and like your stance, like new things like are happening in the marketplace, like new things can be like coming up, but you actually always have your North Star. So that's what's been really
Yeah.
cool. When we started, um, there was this conversation like automation, like we're going to automate all of these things. We're not going to need people. We're 8 years in. Automation has been around for a really long time. People have just started to scratch the surface there. And our job, like where I see like Chatterboss, right? Like AI is very exciting. We are um, where we see our role right now is to lower like the barrier to entry, and like we're like in the encouragement phase, right? Because there is still a lot of entrepreneurs that just don't know where to start. They're overwhelmed. There is a lot of assistants that are worried about it. That's just like transparently speaking, like something just kind of like landed on them. Some people are more tech savvy than others, entrepreneurs and assistants. So that's also like the right fit, right? Sometimes we
Yeah.
have a super tech savvy entrepreneur come in, and they need somebody that's going to match them. And that's like, that's part of the pairing process. And then sometimes we have somebody that's like really like worried about it. We actually can't pair them to that same assistant because they're going to want to be like, let's implement AI and let's automate, and this person's not going to want to, and there's going to be frustration. So that is another thing, another layer that we look at. What is your comfort level? What are you using? And what kind of a person would you need? And our goal is to get you somebody that's like further ahead than you, but not necessarily all the way on the other side of the spectrum where you as the entrepreneur are going to get overwhelmed. That's always been my policy. One, humans shouldn't be doing things that software, automation, AI can do. But that fear that lots of, like assistants express, and like just people are expressing in general, like, are we going to lose our jobs? No, right? But there's like something that we've been like saying a lot internally to like encourage our entrepreneurs and our assistants as well to adapt to technology, right? Our jobs are not going to be taken over by AI, but absolutely our jobs will be taken over by other people who know how to use AI and automation. So as business owners, just like delegation is not a question, should I delegate or not? you can't, like, you're not standing still if you don't delegate. You're moving backwards because everyone else is
Amen.
doing it. So it's the same with automation and AI. You have to start incorporating it. And that's what we're doing, right? And there's like lots of companies that are like, we're going to we're gonna use AI to manage assistants. That's the other part of like core values, right? That's not us. We are humans working and managing technology, but not vice versa. And that's always going to be something at our core. I don't believe assistants will go out of business. I don't believe that therapists will go out of business. There are many industries that need that human-centric approach. This is one of them.
Yeah, that's such a good comparison, honestly. And truly, a lot of times your assistant does become your therapist. But anyway, maybe that's just me. Do you, so I mean, it's up, I mean, and I think the point is a really fair one to make. And the way I certainly think about it is that like AI is another tool in your delegation toolbox, right? Is that like you can leverage it just like many other people hopefully, but also just like items and tool sets that you have to leverage your time. And so you touched on that, and you touched on something else, which is about the values of ChatterBox. And so, we're both busy moms over here, just trying to stay alive and survive. So we're going to wrap up this conversation soon. And I have one last question that kind of touches on all of that, if you don't mind. So one of the core values of ChatterBoss is helping entrepreneurs reclaim their time. I mean, I feel that deep in my soul when I hear that, right? So you, Valerie, how do you manage your time? You're a CEO, you're a mom, you're busy, you got conferences, you got a workout to get in, you got all sorts of things that you got to do. So, I think a lot about systems and processes that have helped me as an entrepreneur and as, somebody running a CEO of a business. So how do you chase the dragon of chasing balance between work and personal life?
Mm, there was something that I read by Dan Sullivan years ago before I became a mom, which said entrepreneurs, we're very typically minded in a way that we are like we're going all in, right? Like our business becomes our hobby, it gets blended. Very, very hard to set boundaries. And he said, look, if you don't have any if you don't have any real time constraints in your life, you're not going to be a top performer. So what you inside of your business, actually working 24/7 for your business doesn't help you. A time constraint is what's going to help you go above and beyond. And he said, well, if you're lucky enough not to have a time constraint, make one up. Work only 3 days a week. Say you're not going to work all the other days. I remember reading that thinking like, yes, that's true. Why? Because part of the personality, my personality and many entrepreneurs' personalities is that like, I love to do things by like, if you give me a deadline, I'm going to complete it. When am I going to complete it? 2 minutes before. But I'm going to complete it. And you have to, like, from a strengths perspective, you have to like lean into who you are. So I remember reading that and thinking like, wow, that I could see how that works. I could never implement and fake it. And I would work 24 hours because it was fun, like genuinely fun. Now that I'm a mom, what is different is that I have a real time constraint that's more fun. And one thing that I've had to do, and that's not because, like not for any other reason, but because like when I'm in something, like I'm in it 100%, like I cannot be in two places at the same time. And so, for example, when I'm working, I don't think about my baby. I just don't. I actually, like, that's just the end of the sentence. I wanted to soften it, but that's just the truth, right? Like, this is how I operate. I'm here, and I'm not thinking because I have to be here. And the same thing when I'm with my baby, honestly, I'm just not looking at what's going on at work. And so I had to be very intentional about if I'm going to be working from 9 to 5, even with some breaks in between, I wouldn't be thinking about my baby the entire day. And that wouldn't be possible for me. So I had to have like a real time constraint where I say, nanny leaves at 1 and we're alone. And some days I'm like, man, I wish I got like another meeting in or I got another this thing in. But I can't, because I am like just single minded, and that's what and it's been amazing, because what has happened is that like things fell away that are truly not important, and we're still in the process, right? There's like still some things
Yeah.
I'm like, but it's making me question, why am I doing this with my time? My time
Mhm.
just got so much more valuable, and that's
Mhm.
also been like inspirational. So, a work in progress, but time constraints, now real time constraints are very important. So now I see why people with like two, three, four, five, 7 kids, right? Like the more
Yeah.
I thought that there was like an equation, right? Like the more kids you have, the less productive you are. And now I see
Exactly.
it's the opposite. The more
Yep.
kids you have, the more productive you are. So like kudos to you, right? Like you are double more productive.
You know, I will take that W for the day. Thank you, Valerie. I think that that's such a good, just actionable piece of advice, for everyone out there. Whether you're a mom or not, and like you said, like children really do give you that natural time constraint. And I think that like if you're somebody like me, like I know exactly what you're talking about because yeah, like work is fun for me. Like if I have free time, like there's no such thing as free. Like I got things
Mhm,
to do and it's dangerous and
mhm.
it's very difficult sometimes to yeah, artificially create that kind of structure and discipline in your life without literally a child being like, "Mom, I
Yep.
need things from you sometimes." So I'm going to take that away very much because I like the way that you really think about, and this goes opposite for motherhood as well, right? Like it's like you cannot be present as a mother
Mhm.
if you have these other distractions going on. It's really hard. I mean, I'm guilty of it all the time, but it's very true that like that all in attitude applies to every your marriage, you're this, you're that, whatever, your relationships with your siblings, like they all deserve your time and your attention as undivided as you possibly get. We're never,
Mhm.
undivided. But I think that like what you said really resonated with me just in terms of that. Yeah. I mean, I think every mom I've ever talked to, it's like you have a kid and you suddenly learn that equation of your time being valuable and you're not here to F around anymore. You know what
Mhm.
I mean? Like you are here to do the things that you need to do. And there really is no diddle doddling about
Mhm.
it because you got to get the most out of it and you got to get going and move on. So love that. And also just really validating. Let me just add the like, yeah, when I'm working, I'm not thinking about my baby. And you know what, guys, let me tell you, everybody, that's okay. That's, as a matter of fact, does make you a stronger mother because when you're able to have the mental bandwidth to turn to your
Mhm.
child and then really give them your all, that's what that means. That's what that
Yeah.
really means at the end of the day. So, love this for us. Love this conversation. Valerie, I could talk to you literally all day long. There's so much I think people can learn from you. So, please do tell us where to find you in the world.
Yeah, so definitely on LinkedIn. Let's connect. Love having these, conversations. Like we're always um, having some really fun conversations in the DMs. People like, like they'll read some of the content and then like they'll ask some questions. So that's been a lot of fun, and I do dedicate my time to that. But of course, on chatterboss.com, BOSS.com. You can check us out. You can schedule a consultation, so it'll give you the opportunity to do a strategy session with our team, just to really learn about you. What are your goals? What are you looking to accomplish? And what an assistance strategy could look like for you, or an improved assistance strategy, right? Or a higher level strategy. So all of that, we'd love to have that conversation. And it's, like some of you are like ready now, and then like some of you just need a little bit of time to like get used to the idea that you're gonna like we're many of us are just like such perfectionists, right? That it's like things have to be like pried out of your hands in order to get you to delegate. But a conversation is a starting place, so, like no matter where you are. So yeah.
Yes. And yeah, I'll include in my show notes. And if you're watching this on replay, down below somewhere, you will see a link to set up that conversation with Chatterboss. In addition, something I hear you say a lot in your content and share is that second time entrepreneurs hire assistants faster. I can attest to that. Let me
Mhm.
tell you, second time around, even if I was like, as soon as I felt maybe I'm ready, it's
Mhm.
time. And you just learn that by going through the fire the first time. So if it is your
Yeah.
first time, no worries, you'll get it. The second time around, you'll be like,
Mhm.
oh, yeah, we're not
Yeah.
messing around. We're allocating that budget right now. So here, Valerie, love to see it. Well, thank you so much. Congrats on all the success, the journey. It's so exciting. Good luck out there in the world. I know you got conferences, you got all sorts of things going on. So appreciate your time today and looking forward to catching up with you next time.
I appreciate it. Thank you so much. What a fun conversation.
Okay, bye.
Bye.